It's August, it's summertime, it's hot outside. You know what else is hot? This week's edition of One Round with George.
Ever since I was a kid and saw Sugar Ray Leonard fight, I've loved boxing. I was at HBO for 15 years as a feature producer, won a few sports Emmys.
Not bad.
I got to travel the world and tell the great stories of these fighters.
Maybe something of a rooting interest in Alexander among the entire HBO Sports crew here, because Alexander's manager is former HBO Sports producer George Jakovic.
I've managed a fighter, I've worked a fighter's corner, being as close to the action as you can get. My life has revolved around boxing.
August 6th had lots of boxing. Earlier in the day, featherweight Michael Conlan was back in the ring. The last time we saw him was last March when he got knocked out in the title try against Lee Wood. He was knocked out in the 12th round of that fight. He had a dominating performance Saturday against Manuel Mariaga, knocking him down 3 times over 10 rounds, won a unanimous decision. Then you had some fights on DAZN that night. The fight I was looking forward to the most was the return of Blair the Flair Cobbs. Blair Cobbs might never be a welterweight champion, but you can't question his heart. Last time we saw Cobbs, he was knocked out in the 9th round against Alexis Roca last March, but he came back against a former titleist in Maurice Hooker, and it was a career best performance for Cobbs. He dropped Hooker once in the first, twice in the second. He took some punishment along the way, but he won a clear, unanimous decision. The main event on that card was welterweight contender Vergil Ortiz, who remains unbeaten. He's won all his fights by knockout. He's the #1 contender. He's calling out champion Terrence Crawford. The welterweight belts are put on ice until Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford finally decide to meet in the ring. There's a lot of people who want to see Boots Ennis and Vergil Ortiz face off. I say why not? And I got Boots big time in that fight. July 30th on Showtime, Danny Garcia made a successful venture in the 154-pound ranks, where he should have won a clear unanimous decision over Jose Benavidez. For who he fought, Garcia looked quick, he looked sharp, and he dominated almost the whole fight. The only thing he didn't dominate were the judges' scorecards, where one judge had that fight to draw. Waleska Roldan had the fight even. In fact, going into that 12th round, Danny Garcia was behind by points, so had he not won that 12th round, that judge would have gave the fight to Benavidez. That's also the same judge who had Manny Pacquiao losing to Jeff Horn 117 to 111. And something else on that undercard that a lot of people talked about was Gary Antoine Russell's 6-round knockout, 6-round stoppage over Rances Barthelemy. Barthelemy was putting up a good fight. 6th round, Russell landed a good shot, knocked Barthelemy down. Barthelemy got up, seemed like he was okay, and the ref stopped the fight. I wasn't in the ring, but I don't think it was a great stoppage, but it got me to thinking. Back in the 1980s, Mike Weaver lost his heavyweight title on a first-round stoppage to Michael Dokes. A very dubious first-round stoppage. This was a fight that should not have been stopped. Joey Curtis, the ref, stopped it. This was shortly after the tragic Dooku Kim death in his fight with Boom Boom Mancini, so I can understand that refs were a little on edge. What impressed me was the coverage of ABC. Keith Jackson talked to the referee, the doctor,
the man who has seen
the athletic commissioner,
chief inspector of the Nevada Athletic Commission,
the fighters.
I really don't know why the referee stopped the fight. I really don't. I mean, I was not hurt a bit.
They did a completely thorough job and talked to everyone. Today, there's no accountability. I don't think the commissions allow the refs to talk to the media after a fight, and that's a shame. You score a fight bad, you stop a fight too soon, there doesn't seem to be any ramifications, and that's something that should change. Last Saturday night was also supposed to be the pay-per-view between Jake Paul and Hasim Rahman. We all know it didn't happen, and here's what Scott Christ of Boxing Scene said, and I think he wrapped it up perfectly. Tonight was supposed to be the return of Jake Paul to a boxing ring, but his fight with Hasim Rahman was canceled, wrapping up the dumbest couple of months of absolute nonsense you'll ever see in boxing, a sport that specializes in dumb nonsense. Well said. By the way, August 20th, there's a big heavyweight rematch in Saudi Arabia between Alexander Usyk and Anthony Joshua. Is anyone talking about it?
So not too long ago, I went to an old-timers game at Yankee Stadium, got a chance to see some of the Yankees that I grew up with, Willie Randolph, Chris Chambliss, Roy White, and it got me thinking about the teams that I watched when I was a kid. What does this have to do with boxing? Those Yankee teams fought everybody. They fought the opposing teams. They fought each other, but what they did most of all was win.
Just like every month of the year, August has its share of anniversaries. August 1st, 1987, Mike Tyson became the first undisputed heavyweight champion since Leon Spinks when he decisioned Tony Tucker to capture all the belts. August 2nd, 1980, the legendary Thomas the Hitman Hearns became a champion for the first time in his illustrious career when he destroyed Pipino Cuevas in 2 rounds to win the WBA welterweight championship of the world. August 7th, 1983, one of the most colorful fighters I ever saw in my life. Hector Macho Camacho destroyed Bazooka Limon to become a champion at 130 pounds. This was the first title for the future Hall of Famer, the late, great Hector Macho Camacho. That's the bell. It's too hot out here, too many bugs out here. That's the end of this week's edition of One Round with George.
That exhilarating one round with me is over. Now you can go to my YouTube page. You can like the content, you can subscribe to the page, and there is more coming soon.